We're up to Daf Chav Zayin Amud Beis. The Mishnah said, "Kol hayotzim min ha'etz eina metama tumas oilim ela pishtan." We know that even though people or utensils that are found in an oil amaze become tamei, but a structure itself generally doesn't become tamei. A building doesn't become tamei. But certain types of structures can become tamei. For instance, a wool tent would become tamei, a goat's hair tent would become tamei, and a linen tent will become tamei. But let's say a wooden building would not become tamei because it's mechuber lekarka. But the tents, even if they're mechuber lekarka, are mekabel tumah. And that's what the Mishnah said, kol hayotzei min ha'etz, anything that's a plant, einam metama tumas oilim, won't become tamei when it's a structure, ela pishtan, only linen. So we're at the bottom of Chav Zayin Amud Beis. Anything that grows won't become tamei. The oil itself won't become tamei. Again, the Torah says in Chukas that vihiza al ha'oil, that sometimes the oil itself can also become tamei, but a building doesn't become tamei. So what kind of an oil becomes tamei? That's what we're going to learn here. And the Mishnah teaches us that if the oil is made of anything that grows, it's not mekabel tumah unless it is, for instance, a linen tent. Minolan, how do you know that a linen tent is mekabel tumah? Amar Rabbi Elazar says, Gomar oil mimishkan. We learn out of Zer Shava oil, which is written in Parshas Chukas by Tumas oil, from the oil which is written by the Mishkan. Ksiv Hachan Parshas Chukas, it's written Zois HaTorah Adam Ki Yamas Ba'oil. And then the Torah says that oil also becomes tamei vehiza al ha'oil. Uksiv hasam, and it's written regarding the covers of the Mishkan by Yifroi says the oil al Mishkan, and he covered the Mishkan, he covered the boards and covered the Mishkan. What did he cover the Mishkan with? So the first cover of the Mishkan was made of tchelis, argaman, telas, shani, and sheish. So the first three are wool, and the fourth one is linen. So you see that a woolen cover is called an oil, and a linen cover is also called an oil. By the way, we also see that the second cover of the Mishkan, made of goat's hair, is also called an oil. So mal halon shel pishtan kari oil, just like in the Mishkan, one of the fabrics that was an oil was linen, and it's called oil. Afkan, regarding chukas shel pishtan kari oil. If you have a tent that's made of linen, it's mekabel tumas oihalim. If there's a mace inside, the oil itself becomes tamei. Ima la'alon shezurin v'chutan kafel shisha, but by the Mishkan the linen was twisted and 6 ply. Afkan shezurin v'chutan kafel shisha. So maybe in order for the tent to be mekabel tumah, it's only if the linen is twisted and 6 ply. But Talmud Lomar oil riba. By tumah it says so many times the word oil, which means it doesn't have to be exactly like the Mishkan, as long as it's linen, even if it's not twisted and 6 ply. Oil riba, if oil is so inclusive, afilu kol milinami, then maybe even silk tents and cotton tents should also be mekabel tumah, because oil is marba other things. But then gzer shava, imken gzer shava ma'anile. But we did have a gzer shava of oil, of tumas oil from the Mishkan. So the gzer shava tells me that it has to be similar to the Mishkan, and only the fabrics that were used on top of the Mishkan can be mekabel tumas oilim. But we're not going to be so strict that it has to be twisted and 6 ply. The oil moed was made of boards, so therefore even a structure made of boards should also be mekabel tumas oil when it's mechuber lekarka. Amar Kro, the pasuk says v'osisa kroshim la mishkan, mishkan kori mishkan, but then kroshim kriyan mishkan. The kroshim were to hold the cover, to hold the mishkan, to hold the coverings, but the kroshim itself was not called the oil. The stuff on top is called the oil and the Mishkan. The kroshim only hold it up. The kroshim are not called oil. Elameata, if so, vosisa michsel oil, hachinami, the hachinami michsel yikri oil. There was another layer of covering on top of the goat's hair, which was made of red ram skins and tachash skins, and that's called michse la oil. So evidently that top cover is not called an oil, and is not mekabel tumas oilim. Now the top cover is made of red ram's skins. So if red ram skins is not called an oil because it's a michsel oil and therefore won't be mekabel tumas oil, then Had elahad boy Rabbi Lazar or behema tmeya mao sheyatama ba'oil ames. Rabbi Lazar was wondering, what about a tent that's made of horsehide? Is it makabel tumas oil? Hashta or behema tayr mitama or behema tmeya miboya. If we are going to say that red ram skins is not called an oil, so therefore even kosher hides are not makabel tumas oilim, then horse hide, which had nothing to do with oil, was nowhere near the Mishkan, for sure it's not called an oil and shouldn't be makabel tumas oilim. The more answers Shani Hasam, the red ram skins are different, because even though it's called michsel oil, but hadar ahadre kro, but the pasuk then calls the michse oil. The chsivit's written in Parshas Nasai, the nasu es yiriyos hamishkan ves oil mayid michseu michse atachash asher olav. The Bnei Gershon carried the first cover of the Mishkan and the second one of goat's hair, and michseu and michse atachash asher olav, and the other covers as well. So we compare makish elyon l'tachtain. We compare the top cover to the cover below it, which was goat's hair. Ma'atachta, just like goat's hair, kori oil is really called an oil. Af elyon kori oil, the top one is also called oil. So therefore, the bottom layer made of wool and linen is called oil. So a wool tent or a linen tent is makabel tumas oilim. The second layer of goat's hair is also called an oil. So a tent made of goat's hair is also makabel tumas oilim. And the next layer made of ram skins is also called an oil, because the Bnei Gershom carried all the oiholim. So kosher skins also make an oil and makabel tumas oilim. Rabbi Lazar wasn't sure, however, what about non-kosher skins? Gufa, boy Rabbi Lazar, ar behem tmeo ma'oshi yitama tumas oilim. Do hides of non-kosher animals, can they be makabel tumas oilim? My kami boiler, why is he wondering? Red ram skins are rams, those are kosher animals. So from there you only see that the hide of a kosher animal is called an oil. Why would he think a non-kosher animal? Rabbi Lozer was wondering about the tachash. Tameh haya or tor haya. Was it tameh or tor? If it was tameh and it's also called an oil, then you see that even the hides of non-kosher animals can also be called an oil and consequently be makabel tumas oilim. Masiv Rab Abba, so Amar Rav Yosef says, Mighty boile. What was Rab Lozer Shaila? Tanina, we learned in a brisa, lehuchsharu l'mlecha shamayim elor behemat ha'er bilvad. That to use for Hashem, you have to use only kosher animals. So evidently the tachash had to be kosher. Masiv Rab Abba, so Rab Abba responds with a kasha. Rab Yudah Omer, Rab Yudah says, Shnei michsois hayu. There were two leather covers on top of the one of goat's hair. Echad shel oiros elam adamim, one of red ram skins, ve'echad shel oiros tchoshim, one of tchoshim skins. So in total there were four. The bottom one was tcheles argama telashani v'sheish. The second one was izim, goat's hair. The third one was red ram skins, and the fourth one tachash. Reb Nechem yomer michse echad haya. He says that the top cover was made half of red ram skins and half of tachash skins combined. And v'daima kimin tola ilan, and the tachash is similar to a creature that swings from the trees. V'atola ilan tamehu. Tola ilan is a creature that's a non-kosher animal. So evidently tachash is a non-kosher animal. Hachi kamar. What Reb Nechemiah the Brisa meant was kimin tola ilanu sheyesh by gevanim harbe. Tachash was similar to a tola ilan that it's multicolored, but v'loy tola ilan. The tachash was no tola ilan because dilu hasam tameh. Tola ilan that swings from the trees is a tameh creature. Ba'achan the tachash is tor. Amar Rav Yosef says, Ihachi, if so, Haina the Metargaminon Sasgaina. The Targum Unkelis of Tachash is Sasgaina. Shesas b'gevanim harbe. It's so happy being multicolored, but it's not a Tola Ilan. Anyway, so according to Rav Yosef, the red ram skins were kosher, the rams are kosher, and the Tachash skin was also kosher. So there's only a source that kosher skins are called oil, and only kosher skins are makabel tumas oilim. So Rav Yosef feels that Rabbi Lazar shouldn't have wondered. Rava Amar, Rava says, Arbaim etmeya de metama ba'oil ames mehacha. Rava says, I have a source that horsehide tents will be makabel tumas oilim, but it's not going to be so simple. It's going to take three stages, A, B, and C, until Rava proves his point that horsehide tents are makabel tumas oilim. We start. The Tanya we learned in a brisa regarding the tumah of nigei begodim and nega on a garment. The Torah says, La pishtim v'la tzomer oy ba'or. Now, the Torah says, could have said or, oy be'or. Why does it say an extra base? Riba or behema tumeya, to tell me that there can be a nega on a coat made out of horsehide or pigskin. Also, the shaloka b'yad kayin. Not only if the nega was in the Jew's hand, the Yisrael's hand, when he gave it to the kayin, but even if he gives it to the kayin and in the kayin's hand it appears, that also is called a nega. And furthermore, katzatz mikulam v'asa achas me'aminayin tamid leimer oy b'chol malechas or. If you take a piece of wool and a piece of linen and a piece of leather and sew it together, and that gets a nega, that also gets nigei begodim, because it says oy b'chol malechas or. So consequently, this is step A. So if regarding negoim, there's no difference between a nega in cowhide or a nega in horsehide, there's no difference. So then l'chayr, the same thing should be about tumas oilim. There should be no difference between an oil made of cowhide or an oil made of horsehide. Ikalamifrach, you can refute this drasha. Mal negoim shekain shasi va'erev tamei behen. Negoim have a chumrah that even thread, whether it's shasi, the long thread of a loom, or erev, the wide thread of a loom, also makabel tumah. So since it's chamor, maybe by negoim, horsehide is like cowhide, both are makabel tumah. But by tumas mace, where thread is not makabel tumah, maybe only an oil made of cowhide or kosher skins is an oil, but not of horsehide or non-kosher skins. Try step B, elagomar mishrotzim. Maybe we should learn it from shrotzim. The Tanya, there's a brisa. The Torah says that if a sheretz touches a beged, whether it's klietz, a beged, or, these things are makabel tumah from a dead sheretz. So it says or ainli ela or behema tahira. I would think that a sheretz could only be matama, a jacket made out of cowhide. Or behema tameya minayin. How do you know if it's made of pigskin? It can also be matamiyit. Talmud Leimer oy, or. The extra oy tells me that when it comes to tumas sheretz, it can be matame, a horsehide as well as cowhide. Oh, so you see by shrotzim, there's no difference between horsehide and cowhide. So probably for tumas oil also, there's no difference between an oil made of horsehide or an oil made of cowhide. Again, we could ask, Shrotzim have a chumrah, even if they're so tiny like a lentil, they could be metame. Because they have that stringency, that's why they're metame, horsehide like cowhide. But a mace that's only metame bekazayis, maybe only a cowhide tent or kosher animal hides are makabel tumas oilim, but not non-kosher hides. So the Gemara says, Negoim yachichu. Negoim will prove, because Negoim are transmit tumah even if they're bigger than, only if they're bigger than a kadasha. Because Negoim transmit tumah when they are a gris, and a gris is the size of 9 adashim. So Negoim are not as stringent as shrotzim. So v'chazir adin loy rizeh k'rizeh v'loy rizeh k'rizeh. So as you know, this is a famous drasha. When you try to learn C from A, and you say you can't learn C from A because A has a certain stringency, so then I decide I'm going to learn C from B. I say, wait, you can't learn C from B because B has a different stringency. But then I say, you know what? But A doesn't have the stringency of B, and B doesn't have the stringency of A. So neither stringency is going to be important. Do they have a common denominator? And if they do, then if C has the same common denominator, it should have the same halacha. What am I talking about? Negoim had a stringency that was able to be matame even thread. But shrotzim doesn't have that stringency. Shrotzim had a stringency that it's metame even the size of a lentil, which is very small. But Negoim doesn't have that stringency because Negoim is only metame begris. So neither stringency, A doesn't have the stringency of B, and B doesn't have the stringency of A. So tzara shava sheben, what do they have in common? She'or tamei ben, that both shrotzim and Negoim could be metame leather. V'asa or behema tameya, ka'or behema tahira. And there's no difference by shrotzim and Negoim between horsehide and cowhide. Afani avi oil ames. So I will now bring you case number C. Sha'ar tamei boy. I know that there are certain hides that will have tumas oil, and nasa boy, and we will make or behema tameya, ka'or behema tahira. We will say that horsehide is like cowhide, and even a horsehide tent is also mekabel tumas oil. Amalei Rava mi barnish l'Ravashi. Rava mi barnish said to Ravashi, Ikal lemifrach. One could refute your drasha. Ma la'atzara shava shabahan. How can you learn from your common denominator? Shekain tmei mepachas mikizayis. You see, Negoim is metame b'kigris. Shrotzim are metame b'kadasha. But both of these shiurim are smaller than a kazayis. Timer b'meis, mace has a leniency. Sheina metame b'kazayis. A mace is only metame ba'oil if it's a kezayis of basar. So if it's only metame b'kezayis, so maybe it can only be metame tumas oilim on kosher hides, tents made of kosher hides, not of non-kosher hides. So Elo Amar Rava Mibarnish, Rava Mibarnish closes up this drasha, and he says, Asya, I'm going to prove to you that tents made of horsehide are makabel tuma, bekal v'chaymer, minoitza shalizim, a kal v'chaymer from goat's hair. As you know, goat's hair shein metame b'negoim. By negoim it was only tzemer or pishtim that was metame, and goat's hair was not tame b'negoim, yet metame b'oil ames. Yet a fabric made out of goat's hair, if you make a tent out of it, it's makabel tumas oil, because goat's hair was the second cover of the Mishkan that was made of goat's hair. That's called oil. So a tent made of goat's hair is makabel tumas oil. So or behema tumeya shematama benegoim, but the hide, a horse hide, which is makabel tumas negoim, as we said before, from the word be, from the letter be or, that even horse hide is makabel tumas negoim. So it's more chamor than goat's hair, and therefore in addition metama ba'oil ames. So therefore horsehide is also metama ba'oil ames. So one more time, this is C, and Rava Mibarnish closed up shop. He says, I hold, not like Rav Yosef. Rav Lozer wasn't sure whether the hides of non-kosher animals have tumas oilim. Rav Yosef said definitely not, and Rava Mibarnish says yes, I have a kal v'chaymer. If goat's hair that's not metame b'negoim has tumas oilim, then non-kosher animal hides that are makabel tuma b'negoim should certainly have tumas oil. Rav Yosef said that the only things that were good for melecha shamayim is only kosher animals. Now I thought what he was telling me was that only kosher animals will have tumas oil in. Because if the top cover of the Mishkan was made of ram skins and tachash was kosher, so and if we say that for Melecha Shamayim you can only use kosher animals, what's the purpose of telling me that? Because to tell me that only those were called oil and non-kosher skins are not tamei tumas oil. But if Rava Mibarnish holds that non-kosher skins also have tumas oil, so the Mai Hilchasa, why did Rav Yosef have to tell me that you can only use kosher stuff for building the Mishkan? Unless he wasn't talking about Mishkan, he was talking about Tefillin. Rav Yosef was telling me when you write the parshas of Tefillin, you have to write on parchment from kosher animals. But Tefillin behedyak sivbu, for Tefillin I don't need a brisa, it's a pasuk chumash. It says, V'hoy l'chalois al yadchol zikaron beinenecha, l'mantia teres Hashem beficha. Which means, menamuter beficha, when you write, you have to write beficha from something that you can put into your mouth. So it has to be written on parchment from kosher animals. Ela maybe la'oiron. Maybe the Bryce is telling me that the bottom have to be made from kosher animal skins. But V'omer Abaye Shin Shal Tefillin is also Aloch HaMoshe Messinai. The shin that's embossed on your Tefillin Shal Rosh is Aloch HaMoshe Messinai. So the bias is also Aloch HaMoshe Messinai. So whatever is Aloch HaMoshe Messinai has to be Teiras Hashem Beficha, has to be mutter in your mouth. Elo L'karcham Bisaron, Ul Taifram Begidin. Each parsha in your Shal Rosh has to be wrapped with a hair. And the bottom have to be sewn with sinew. So maybe the Bryce is telling me that the sinew and that hair has to come from kosher animals. Hanami Aloch HaMoshe Messinai. Who? That's also Aloch HaMoshe Messinai. The Tanya, because the Bryce says that tefillin merubais, that the tefillin need to be square, is Aloch HaMoshe Messinai. And nichrachos bisaron, that every parsha has to be wrapped with a hair. And nitfares begidon, and also that it has to be sewn with sinew, is also Aloch HaMoshe Messinai. So whatever is Aloch HaMoshe Messinai, whether it's the sinew for stitching, or the hair for tying, or the parchment for writing, or the bias for containing, all of these are in the big umbrella of Teiras Hashem Beficha. It's what Hashem gave Moshe Messinai, and it has to be mutter beficha. Ela maybe l'ritzuos, maybe we're talking about the straps. Maybe that the Bryce is telling me has to come from kosher animals. But Rabbi Yitzchak says ritzuos shchayres Aloch HaMoshe Messinai. Rabbi Yitzchak says that the ritzuos have to be black is also Aloch HaMoshe Messinai. Black is Aloch HaMoshe Messinai, but that it had to come from a kosher animal, that I didn't know. So therefore, that's what the Brisa taught me. I knew from the pasuk that the parshias, the bottom, the hair, and the stitches all have to come from a kosher animal. But the ritzuos, for that I needed the Brisa. For Melecha Shamayim has to be Or Behemat Hayr. My haviyolo the tachash hoye b'mei Moshe. Bottom line, the tachash b'mei Moshe was a kosher or non-kosher animal. Rav Yosef said it was kosher. But anyway, Amr Rabbi Lo, Amr Rabbi Shimon Belakish, Omer hoye Reb Meir. Reb Meir used to say, tachash hoye b'mei Moshe, bria b'fnei atzma hoye. The tachash in Moshe's time was a separate creature. V'lo hichriu b'chachamim imin chayu imin behemuhu. Chum weren't sure whether it was a beast or an animal. Keren achas hoye salei b'mitzcha. It had one horn in its forehead. Ulfisha nizdamaloi l'Moshe. Moshe found it at that time. He needed it, so that's why it came about to him. V'asam imenu l'mishkan. And from that tachash, he made a cover on top of the mishkan. And v'nignas, after that, the animal, there was no more animals, no more tachash. Midikomer keren achas haisale b'mitzcha. Since it had one horn in its forehead, shmami notarhu. It means it was kosher. Why? Because the Omer of Yehuda shor shehikriv Adam Rishon keren achas haisale b'mitzcha. The ox that Adam Rishon sacrificed had one horn in its forehead. Shene'emar, as it says in Tehillim, David HaMelech says to the Rebbeinu Shalom, V'sitav l'Hashem. My praises to Hashem should be better mishor par than the ox. Makrin mafris, that had split hoofs and one horn that Adam Rishon brought. My tefillas should be better than Adam Rishon's. I once said, because my tefillah, says David HaMelech, came with a broken heart. Adam Rishon didn't have a broken heart. The Gemara asks, Makrin tarti mashma. Makrin sounds like plural, two horns. Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak, but mi keren ksiv. It's written without a yud, one horned. So if Adam brought a one-horned animal for a korban, it must have been kosher. So the tachash also must have been a kosher animal. V'lifshit minei dimin behemahu. Adam Rishon brought it, so he must have brought a behema. So therefore, that proves us the tachash was a behema. But kiven dika keresh dimin chayu. Keresh is a deer with one horn, and it's a chaya. V'lesle elachado keren only has one horn. Ikalamemar. So the tachash might have been similar to the keresh, and min chayu, it might have been a chaya. So it's either a type of chaya similar to the keresh, or it's like the behema, the shor por that Adam Rishon brought. But eich sheyiyah, it's a kosher one, because Adam brought it, and a tzvi, this one-horned deer, is also a kosher animal. So kosher it was. We're not sure if it's a behema or a chaya. We have learned that a piece of fabric which is 3 by 3 at boys is mekabel tumah. So the Mishnah says, if you have a psilas beged, if you have a piece of fabric which is 3 by 3 at boys, shekipla, but you rolled it up, but v'lo hivava, you haven't scorched it yet. So Rabbi Eliezer Omer Tameyahi. Rabbi Eliezer says it's still tamei, because rolling it up has not diminished it from being a 3 by 3. Because the same way that you roll it, you can unroll it, so it's still considered a 3 by 3. And ve'em adlikim, but you're not allowed to light it, which we will see soon in the Gemara why you're not allowed to light it. Rabbi Kiva says Tahirahi. Rabbi Kiva says the moment you roll it up, it has lost its identity as a 3 by 3. Therefore, it's no longer Makabel Tumah. And he holds Madlikimba, you can light it. The Gemara asks, Bishlam, it's well understood, Linyan Tumah, regarding whether this rolled up piece of fabric is Makabel Tumah or not. B'ha this is the Machlaikis. Rabbi Lezer Savar Kipul Eina Mail. Rabbi Lezer says rolling it up is meaningless, it's not effective, and it's still a 3 by 3. Uva Milse Kamaisa Kaima, it still has its original identity of 3 by 3, and it's Makabel Tumah. Rabbi Kiva Savar Kipul Mail. Rabbi Kiva holds the rolling it up was effective. Ibatuli Batil, it lost its identity as a 3 by 3. El Linyan Adloka B'mai Pligi. Why are they arguing regarding lighting? So I'm going to speak out the next little piece so it'll be easier to read it. Rabbi Lazar said b'shem Rabbi Shaya, and so said Rav Ada bar Ahava. We're speaking about a piece of fabric that's exactly 3 by 3. Perfect. And it was rolled up Erev Yom Tov. And now it's Yom Tov Erev Shabbos, and you're lighting Shabbos candles 18 minutes before Shabbos. And everybody will hold that if you had a chair, let's say, on Yom Tov, and the chair broke into pieces, you're not allowed to take the pieces and throw it into your fireplace. Because the broken pieces, which are now useful as firewood, is nailad. It's a newly created thing on Yom Tov, and that's muktzah. Everybody will also hold that when you light Shabbos candles and you hold your match or your candle, or whatever you're lighting the Shabbos candles from, you have to light it until the majority of the wick that extends from the oil is ignited. When you light it, you have to light it until most of the wick is lit. So now let me explain. Rabbi Eliezer held that when you took this 3 by 3 piece of fabric and you rolled it up, it was meaningless. It was still makabel tumah. Therefore, it's still considered a keli. It's still considered a utensil. 18 minutes before Shabbos, when it's Yom Tov, you lit it. The moment you lit it, it's no longer 3 by 3. So now it's considered a broken utensil. It just broke when you lit it. Now that it's a broken utensil and it's a new object, you're not allowed to continue holding your source of flame to the wick until you've ignited more than 50%, because what you're doing is you're using something that's muktzah, something that just became a broken utensil. On the other hand, Rabbi Akiva held that when you rolled it up Erev Yontif, this 3 by 3, it already was no longer considered a 3 by 3. It had lost its identity. Once it lost its identity, it's like a piece of wood. It's a piece of wood, so therefore you're allowed to light it 18 minutes before Shabbos and keep lighting it, because it's not noiled. It's not a newly broken piece that broke on Yontif. It got broken Erev Yontif when you rolled it up. Let's read that inside. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Shaya, v'chein Amar Rav Ada bar Hava hacha b'sholosh al sholosh mitzum tzamais askinan. We're speaking where it was exactly 3 by 3. B'yontif shechali is Erev Shabbos askinan, and Erev Shabbos is Yontif. And the Kuli Alma, everyone Islu de Rabbi Yehuda holds of muktzah. What kind of muktzah? The Amar, Rabbi Yehuda holds masikim b'kelim. If you would like to throw, let's say, a wooden chair into the fireplace, you're welcome to do it. The chair is not muktzah. If your chair broke and now it has broken into firewood, you're not allowed to put it into the fireplace. Why? Because now the broken pieces of wood are noilid. It was newly created on Yontif. It's muktzah. Udukuli alma islu ula. Everyone holds like ula damar ula amadlik tzorch sheyadlik b'rayv hayoytzei. When you light Shabbos candles, you have to light and make sure that most of the wick that extends out of the oil is ignited. Now we go through the mechanics. Reb Lezer savar kipul eina moil. Reb Lezer held that when you rolled up this 3 by 3 into a wick, it didn't matter. It's still considered a keli of 3 by 3. But it's exactly 3 by 3. The kivan the adlik bapurta, the moment you ignited it, havila shever keli, it just broke from something which is considered a keli of 3 by 3. It's not. So v'chikam madlik, when you're doing, as Ula said, to ignite the majority of the wick that's sticking out of the oil, v'shever keli kamadlik, you're manipulating and you're lighting something which just broke on Yontif, and it's muktzah. Rabbi Akiva savar kipul moil vein tyrus keli. When you rolled it up on Erev Yontif, you had already degraded it from being a 3 by 3. You already made it into a rolled up piece of nothing, and therefore vein tyrus keli alav. It wasn't the utensil even before you lit it. The chikamadlik beis ba'alma kamadlik. So what you're lighting is just a plain piece of wood, and since it's Yontif, you're welcome to light this piece of wood. Amar Rav Yosef says, Haina de Tanina, sholosh al sholosh mitzum tzamais, v'lo yadana l'ma'ilchasa. My Rebbeim taught me that there's a Mishnah somewhere that has to do with 3 by 3 it's boys, and I didn't know what it was talking about. Now I know, it's our Mishnah where the fabric was 3 by 3 it's boys, it got rolled up Erev Yontif. According to Rabbi Eliezer, it's still considered a 3 by 3, and according to Rabbi Akiva, it's not. Since Rav Ada bar Hava gave this explanation, Shmamina Rav Yehuda Svirale, evidently Rav Ada bar Hava holds like Rav Yehuda, who holds of muktzah on Yontif. And when something broke on Yontif, you're not allowed to use the pieces because they are noilid, newly created. There's an interesting discussion regarding this idea that whatever you use for Melecha Shamayim, you have to use something from a kosher animal. The Ramah quotes a Ran or Rosh Hashanah that a shofar should also only come from a kosher animal. And the Magen Avram, quoting this Ran, says that all mitzvahs have to be made from kosher animals. You can't use non-kosher animals to be Mekayim mitzvahs. So the Beis Shlomo wonders if you can light Neres Chanukah using the fat from a non-kosher animal. L'chayra, if all mitzvahs have to be done with products of kosher animals, then you can't use an oil or a fat from a non-kosher animal to light Neres Chanukah. But many disagree with the Magen Avraham and say that the halacha is only regarding tefillin and it's not regarding other mitzvahs. But the Beis Yitzchak argues, Rabbi Yitzchak Shmelkes argues that even according to the Magen Avraham, you'd be allowed to use fats or oil from non-kosher animals for Neres Chanukah. There's a Tosfos in Saita that says that Rabbi Shimon in Yerushalmi and Saita holds that you can write the parsha of a Saita on the parchment of a non-kosher animal. Why? Because since this parchment is not going to last, what you're doing is you're erasing it and then it's going to be over. So the din that you should only use kosher animals for mitzvahs is only a mitzvah that will continue to last, only for a mitzvah item that's going to last. But if it's not meant to endure, it doesn't matter. And therefore you can write the parsha of Saita on the parchment of a non-kosher animal. since the oil in the menorah is also not going to last, so the Beis Yitzchak says, even if you should hold that a shofar has to be made from a kosher animal, or mitzvahs have to be made from kosher animals, but something doesn't endure, like the parsha of Asaita, or the Shemin of Neres Chanukah, does not have to be or come from a kosher animal. I'm sorry that I rushed. I had done the whole shir completely, and then I wasn't able to upload it, and I had to do it over another time. So I did it a little more quickly. I hope I was clear. Have a good Shabbos.